This is a Reader's Hebrew Bible. It's published by Zondervan, and it's sort of the big brother of their Reader's Greek New Testament. And it's very similar in design. Now, being a Reader's Bible, we, as you can see, have the Hebrew text, and we have these footnotes which list every word that appears fewer than 100 times in the Hebrew or 25 times in the Aramaic, and defines them or glosses them. Like Zondervan's Reader's Greek New Testament, this has this bonded leather soft cover, and it's frankly not very good. It feels quite waxy, almost rubbery. And I like soft cover Bibles, but I find this material to be quite poor. I do like this perimeter stitching here. This looks very aesthetically pleasing, but there's not much more I can say very nice about the cover. This Bible is quite large. It is over 1,600 pages long, if we can just find a page number there. And that makes it quite chunky, even though the pages are quite thin themselves. Now, you see this silver gilding along here. I really don't think that the cover is sufficient to protect that, and that means you really need to get a case for this if you're going to take it out and about. Now, opening it up, we have, of course, paste down binding. You see this brown end sheet. It's a weird material, almost like a thick baking paper. It's quite odd. I don't like it very much. Then we have this ribbon, which is also pretty shocking. It is very thin, very scrawny, single-sided satin. It's just, this is a case of do better, Zondervan. I foresee a ribbon change in this Bible's near future. Now, from the cover again, we open up and we'll see the title page, and then we'll see this copyright page, and we're going right to left, because of course Hebrew goes right to left. Then we'll get onto this contents page, which goes left to right on the page itself. But we have the full contents page for the Hebrew Bible in the Hebrew order, which is different from the English Old Testament order. And we have the English book names and the Hebrew book names as well. Then we have these author's prefaces, and then an introduction, which tells us a bit about the text. You read left to right and then right to left to get to the next page, and then left to right again, which is a little weird. Now, the Hebrew text that this edition follows is not standard, what you'd expect. It's not BHS. It rather follows the Westminster Leningrad Codex. We have some abbreviations here. And that's worth knowing because it's not the same text that will most commonly be used in serious academic environments. But if we look to the back of the book, we will see a full list of differences between the Westminster Leningrad Codex and BHS, and it's quite short. It's only 2 pages long, and in fact it's more like 1/10 of a page, so they're very similar texts. But you don't really get an indication of these differences within the text itself. Now, I quite like the formatting of the text. As you can see, it's a single column layout, and it follows the prose and poetry formatting from BHS. Now, as with Zondervan's Reader's Greek New Testament, we have all the words that are footnoted in their lexical forms, followed by a gloss or multiple glosses. Now, I have to say I quite like this font. I find it very readable. I like that the chapter numbers are very clear. They're obviously in these nice big boxes. And it's nice that the font itself is clean and conservative. A lot of modern fonts tend to they can confuse the letters, and it's quite difficult for a beginner to differentiate. But here, all the letters are individually defined and clear. It's very nice. You'll also notice that each proper name that appears less than 100 times is in fact not footnoted, but is rather highlighted in grey, so you can see that and just try to figure it out. At least that's the advice of the editors. Now, the pages themselves are quite thin, which is a mercy given how big the book is as it is. I mean, it's actually quite difficult to hold in one hand, but the paper quality itself is not fantastic. It doesn't feel very premium, and if it's anything like the Reader's Greek New Testament, then it's probably pretty susceptible to picking up moisture from your hands. But I have no direct evidence of that with this itself. Now you can see on every right page we have the English name of the book we're in, and then on the left page we have the Hebrew name, which is cool. It's very nice to have those options available. Now finally, turning to the back, we have two appendices, and the second one, as we've seen already, are the differences between the Westminster Leningrad Codex and BHS. But the first one is this glossary, which has every Hebrew word that appears more than 100 times. So between this and the text itself, you have the entire Hebrew language that appears in the Hebrew Bible. You do not have the Aramaic words that complement the Aramaic footnotes though. And of course you need to know the grammar externally. Now a point worth noting is that the glossary begins at the left hand of the rightmost page and continues down to the right, and then you've got to go all the way back to the very left hand page and then go left to right there. So you're sort of going left to right within, right to left. And this makes for a pretty weird system. I kind of wish that they started this at the very back of the book and just went left to right for the entire glossary or the entire appendices. Here's the holiday lexicon, and when we look in here we can see that it's actually going left to right throughout the entire book. Now I could see a potential case for going right to left, but mixing and matching it like the Reader's Hebrew Bible does is really not the best case scenario. I'd say it's probably the worst case scenario. It just feels unnecessary and awkward and unnatural to look through. That said, that's not a reason not to get this Bible. If you like the presentation of the text, then I would say this is a price that is worth paying. Here we've got the back cover, and there you have it. In summary, this cover is totally insufficient for this text block. It's just not going to provide sufficient protection, so it really calls for a rebind like the Reader's Greek New Testament. The text block itself I quite like, although the paper quality isn't particularly great and it's not line matched, but I haven't really found bleed through to be a problem. I mean, it's a large font, and it's also easy on the eyes and attractive. And it's really nice to have this bounty of footnotes. That's great. Just be aware of their limitations. So there you have it. The Zondervan Reader's Hebrew Bible.